Hey guys, thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. And I hope you enjoyed this interview. We're looking at the business of arts, culture, tourism, and the creative industry in Nigeria. And who is best to talk about this? The Director General of the National Council for Arts and Culture, Mr. Asika. Good morning. Welcome to the show for the first time.
Yes,
Welcome.
yes. Finally here.
Yes, you're finally here. Thank you,
We
thank you.
did something during COVID, right?
Yes, we did something for my other organization, African Economic Congress. So welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Yes. Now, let me start. And congratulations, by the way, on your appointment now. I've told you that privately, publicly. How many months now?
Well, we were appointed in January, but in reality, I really resumed in March. We didn't get the appointment letters till the end of February. And it takes a little while to come in. So maybe 60, 70 days I've already
60, 70 days.
Yeah, that I've been operating.
How has it been for you? Because for you is a stark reality from private sector to public. How has it been for you? It's different.
Well, I'm
because
prepared.
Sometimes they say that those of us in the private sector, not be like that today, be when you enter public sector, not different thing. So how has it been for you?
For me, I think it's the normal situation. It's a transition. But I'm used to Abuja, first of all. Secondly, I've always been close to the public sector. I've always been advising them or working with them, collaborating with them. So I'm not sort of naive as to what the real issues are. But it's definitely always an interesting situation. And we've been doing a lot of internal reviews inside the council, getting it repositioned for what we want to do and drive. So it's been a very, very intense period. I mean, to be honest, I've not really had any time to see anything outside my office, but we know Abuja, so that's not a problem. This is literally my first interview, actually.
Thank you for giving me the honors.
But I told you, right?
Yes, you did.
Because I've been staying away from the press,
Yes.
more focused on getting ourselves internally prepared, collaborating with the ministry, the other agencies, agreeing our strategic plans and roadmaps, where we've done with all of that now. So now we're moving into implementation and looking for the resources to implement.
Okay. Now, since you've come to your council's mandate, I had to go look at what your mandate is, the NCAC, Council for Arts and Culture.
Yep.
And I printed it out. So let me just read it a bit so that I don't falter. Let me read it for our viewers. The NCAC's mandate is to index, preserve, promote, and present the best of our visual and performing arts, craft, textiles, cuisines, festivals, traditional dances, drama, opera, cinema, film, television, which what I'm doing is part of, music, entertainment, advertising, fashion, photography, design, folklore, oral traditions, literature, indigenous games, traditional architecture, indigenous innovation, software animation, e-sports, gaming, comics, recreation, theater, and live entertainment. Your mandate is to deploy these assets as tools for forging national unity and promoting positive identity. This is quite huge. When I read it, I was like, oh, really? Is all this? That's really the entire space.
Well, it is, most definitely. It's the cultural and creative industries of Nigeria. And I think what has happened is the sector has not even really been aware that NCAC is there. And that's part of really what we're focused on, to make sure that we're positioning ourselves to offer services that make us relevant to those industries that we are supposed to represent. Because otherwise, you become an adjunct and the private sector really does not need to engage you. A lot of those industries you mentioned are not potential industries. They're already billion-dollar industries: advertising, architecture, media, broadcast. All these things are massive. But I think what has happened is that Nigerians, for whatever reason, have been diminishing this sector for the last 50 years. It's the same way they diminished sports as a job. Entertainment is a job. It's not people dancing around. It takes 14 hours preparation to present a 3-minute show. And people really have to understand the diligence required to be a professional at any level in the performing arts, in the theater arts, and when you see a music video and it's 3 minutes, but most people don't know it took 2 months to make that video. There's 150 people worked on it in pre-production, then production, then post-production, before you get to see the thing that looks like it's just a 3-minute clip. And that's what I think part of what we're going to do is bring out the behind the scenes, because we're about the business of it, about the work. The star in front is one person. The people behind the star might be 500. And that's where the work is. That's where the jobs are.
You just remind me of what it takes to put my show together, for example. People will just come see 1 hour. They expect me to come into the studio at 11 to 12 noon, and it's done. Come on, guys. It takes me hours when I'm off.
The research,
everything, the guest sourcing, all of that it's a whole lot. Even during weekends, you don't rest.
Your
because,
production crew, the producer,
you
the
know,
director.
there are many of them now, even backstage, that you're not seeing that. They're doing
100%.
a lot of work. So I understand what you're saying. But the other thing here is that the council is mandated to deploy these assets as tools for forging national unity and promoting positive identity. I didn't see anything money. So I don't know if you guys are going to review that mandate, you know, because it's about, you just talked about money, it's about revenue generation, it's about, you know, adding.
Well, we're in that process in the sense that if you look at the Act, you'll see that it was first established in 1975.
Yes.
And it was reviewed in 1987.
7 years.
So I inaugurated a committee yesterday for the legal restructuring of the NCAC, because I've been involved in this sector, as you know, for many, many years. We were already working on certain bills last year before I found myself in this position. So what we're trying to do is synthesize that work and look at the NCAC and see how we can change it to a revenue-generating agency. And we really talk about the business of culture, the business of entertainment. That $100 billion target that the minister talks about,
yes.
It comes from a lot of work that was done also by a committee I headed at the NESG and the technical working group for the national plan for the next 50 years. Because in that structure, there are 8 core sectors looked as the drivers for the Nigerian economy. And CCHT, which I led, is culture, creative industries, hospitality and tourism, is one of those sectors. And those sectors are the sectors that tell the story. That's where the storytellers are. And that's what Nigeria has not been doing. So that's what we're coming to do.
Do you think that that's a projection that the minister said, I think she said it in January of this year, $100 billion, addition of $100 billion to the economy?
Not an addition, that the sector will be contributing $100 billion per annum.
Yes, per annum.
By 2030.
By 2030. Do you think it's feasible?
It's totally doable.
from
PwC
now?
says we're doing $25 billion per annum now. So that's a 4-time, it's all about investment. If you put the right investment in, the right levers, we will grow massively. All that has happened without the right investment. So if you got to $25 billion with basically zero, what happens when you put in the investment into the hard infrastructure to enable the soft power? That is what will unlock that.
Now, that brings me to the question of this soft power, which you've always said, because I've watched interviews. Of course, I heard you speak in 2020, and even last year, NESG, don't know, you were there, I was also there. You moderated, I think you moderated the session. I also,
well,
yes, yeah. So you've always spoken about soft power in the creative industry. As it concerns Nigeria's future. I would like 100%. You to explain that. What do you mean by soft power?
Sure. I mean, the concept of soft power is created by Professor Joseph Hugh, a Harvard professor, and I only became aware of it maybe in the mid-2000s. But it's looking at hard power as the military-industrial complex, right? Soft power is more suasion, diplomacy, utilizing those tools to connect countries and to win your agenda. If you look at it like this, the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989 was soft power. The Americans didn't go in there with tanks. The Russians and the East Germans wanted McDonald's and Levi 501s. They were aspiring for a lifestyle that Hollywood was showing them. And Hollywood is soft power, right? So in the Nigerian context, when Nigerians are talking about, I hate phrases like launder your image. No, we don't just launder any image. We already killed the 419 thing just using Afrobeats. You come with positive narratives, right? You come with the real thing. Nobody that engages Nigerians anywhere in the world has ever forgotten that they met a Nigerian, because Nigerians have agency. Nigerians have energy. That energy and agency we carry is totally unique to us, and it makes us relevant everywhere. So our soft power is manifesting through the music, the fashion, the food, all of these things, and they're happening together. I might use a word like Afrobeats culture, because Afrobeats is like a vanguard going through across borders, which has happened and invaded the world. Some of us and those of us who were involved in creating that explosion, we know exactly how we built the bridges, and we built the bridges with institutions, broadcasters, partners around the world. So when I talk about soft power, I mean it specifically in the sense of the Nigerian cultural and creative industries, what they do for us, because we arrive before everybody else. We arrive before Dangote and UBA. We arrive before the government. And I keep telling the government and the brands, well, I'm in governments, but we should tell them that, listen, why don't you partner with the soft power? It'll make your landing easier. When you arrive at the UNGA, if Burna Boy introduces you, it's a bigger thing. When you arrive at Davos, if the food comes first, it's a bigger thing, because those are human things and everybody's connected to that.
What has been their response? Now, talking about public-private partnership, because I see that you're also huge on that in terms of getting the private sector to be able to you know,
Well, I think the private
look
sector
into
already
this.
has worked out they can't sell anything without engaging that demographic. How else are you going to sell things to young Nigerians if you're not connected to music, lifestyle, and culture? There is no way, because that's where they live. I think government has recognized that by creating this ministry, right? And by appointing people like us. So thank the minister for bringing us in and allowing us to actually begin to apply these philosophies to the country for the benefit of the country. So I think the answer is now. We have just started. Execution is just beginning. And together, collaborating, I think we're going to do some incredible things.
So what specifics would is your ministry going to concentrate on? Is your agency going to concentrate on now? Because it's the National Council for Arts and Culture. I also know that there are other agencies under the Ministry of Culture.
Arts and Creative Economy.
Yes, under the ministry. You have the museums, you have all of that. But what specifics are you going to be concentrating
Well, we're
on?
specifically, I mean, you talked about it in my mandate right there.
Yeah.
It talks about the index, right?
Yes.
So one of the first things we're doing is building a natural cultural inventory, right? Where we are aggregating. We already started working with and I have to thank them. We have a group called the National Forum of Commissioners of Culture, and they're part of our strategic platforms. And we already put out information to them, asking them to aggregate information from their states, local governments, every state. How many festivals are there in your state? How old is the festival? Which local government is it and what's it about? So we can begin to gather. That's phase one. When we did that phase one, we put out a call. I'm Nigerian. I make assumptions, but I want to deal with data. Now, I made a call and I said, maybe there are 1,000 festivals in Nigeria. I didn't know. Edo State replied first. Edo State had 1,400 festivals in Edo State. That's one state.
Festivals?
Yes, festivals. So far today, we have 18 states have replied. We're waiting for the rest, but they're coming in. Then we asked them, we have cultural norms and expressions, food, fashion, body adornments, dances, masquerades, and they're beginning to respond. We have about 10 states have responded so far. So that's one level of the aggregation. Then we're going to the Committee of Vice Chancellors, who own all the public universities. So the Departments of History, Archaeology, and Art to bring their data from all the questions we're asking. Then we're going to the Traditional Rulers Forum, who are the real custodians of the culture, to bring it in from the national level and the state level. All of that having been done, we then go to the general public and say, please, where are you from? Who are you? What's your origin story? That whole thing is going to come together into a digital platform, right? We signed an MOU yesterday with a company called Playhouse Communications, who are probably the #1 digital agency. They don't like to say that. I think they're #1, but they're one of the biggest in the country. They've been working for MTN for 7 years. And they built something called Story Hub. Story Hub has already achieved 100 million views in just a quarter. And what are they doing? Just telling the stories of Nigerians. So we believe that if you index the culture, you put it into an IP registry, and you storify it, that becomes the base for everything else you want to produce. Whether in modern culture, everything we're doing is linked to the ancient. And we're also connecting pop culture as well. So that's one of the first core things we're doing. Another core thing we're focused on is capacity building, right? The ministry has a mandate to deliver 2 million jobs by 2027. We're focused. We've built a program called ICE. We're working with CVC, the universities, to build a network that gives us about 13,000 locations in terms of hubs to deliver this capacity building, to create people who are ready for work, right? Because in Nigeria, I think training people is one thing. The other side is the gig side. Create a marketplace for them to be able to work. So they can work in about 100 different sectors, because digital and creative are very intertwined, yeah? I was speaking at the BOI IDI Stakeholders Forum on behalf of the creative industries, just to share a roadmap that we think could work about how do you activate and accelerate the creative entrepreneurs, the creative enterprise in all the states. Make sure that if you do big projects, it doesn't just stop in Lagos and Abuja, but somebody sitting in Katsina, somebody sitting in Enugu can get access. Because in Nigeria, a lot of things stop at the center, right? And you're sitting, people are watching this show, they're sitting all over Nigeria and they think, they've already taken the decision. They know who they're going to give the money to.
So how do you get to that critical mass of people?
Well, what we do is stakeholder engagement, right? And we do those stakeholder engagements around the country. One of the things I can tell you that's happening, the minister inaugurated a committee, I think yesterday or 2 days ago, which I'm part of. She decided that, and she told them, the commissioners of culture came to pay a courtesy visit on her yesterday or 2 days ago. And she also told them that we are going on a national tour. We're going to go to every state of Nigeria, because what we want to make sure is that we're not just being top down, we want to be bottom up as well. So the commissioners of culture at the state level, we share our roadmaps to them, they integrate into that, we get alignment, and then we go and see them. Because at the end of the day, this is Nigeria's a big place, and we contain multitudes. As we've begun to aggregate already, the kind of information and content we're getting is showing me that Nigerians really don't know Nigeria. We really don't know Nigeria. We really don't know ourselves. We make assumptions, and a lot of them are negative assumptions. So we need to translate culture. It's not just to say, oh, I'm an Igbo man, I'm a Yoruba man, a Hausa man. There's mixed heritage. Everybody's connected. So our theme is connected culture in everything that we're doing. Discover Nigeria is a big aspect of what we're doing in NCAC, which is a TV series, it's a platform, it's a digital engagement play. So for NCAC, we have a number of things apart from our legacy, things like NAFest, which we're trying to bring alive this year. We're hoping to talk to the FCT ministry to see if they will work with us to host it in Abuja in the last quarter of 2024. So that's just an insight into some of the things that NCAC is focused on.
Now let's talk about this culture a bit. National Council for Arts and Culture. I'll come back to the arts part. What would you say about Nigerians now losing a bit of our cultural heritage, especially now in this century, the 21st century, where we have a lot of digital natives? Some people may not even know, you know.
Embrace digital and
Yes.
bring the culture into digital. I think that don't treat culture as static. Culture is not something you stick on the wall and look at, which is some people's approach. My approach is that culture evolves. Okay, there's no way you will come to some place and in 5 years' time they're doing exactly what they were doing 5 years ago. It doesn't happen.
So are you of the view that culture evolves instead
Of
of
course
us
it
like
evolves.
preserving perhaps what we've had
There's
in
a
the
part
past?
of it. There's a part of it that needs to be preserved, but there's a part of it that needs to evolve, and that's where the knowledge and expertise comes in. If you're doing stuff that was negative 300 years ago, today you have not evolved, you have not learned. Not everything in culture is positive, but not everything is negative. And I'll use a classic example. A lot of Nigerians are super religious, right? They're super religious. They're like the Latter-day Saints. You know, they've come to this thing and they have owned it, especially the Christians. And in doing this, I believe that we've made some massive mistakes. We've abandoned our essence. So Nigerians are sitting there telling you that the gods are negative. How can they be negative? That's our origin. So I always talk about, and I was so happy, I met the commissioner from Oyo and he was talking about the Shango Festival.
Shango.
And I said to him, I didn't have the chance to tell him, but I've been talking about Shango for 15 years. I said, Shango is going to end up in the Marvel universe, and we're going to be complaining because we didn't deal with him, okay? Thor and Shango.
So Thor, exactly.
What's the difference? What's the difference? The difference is that Shango's broke and abandoned in Nigeria, and Thor's approaching 20, 30, 40 billion dollars. So we have to unlock ourselves from this prison we've kept ourselves in. I brought some people from Puerto Rico last year. They were showing a film, and I showed it in Lagos Island at Freedom Park. Bunch of Yoruba people. And the beginning of the film is Santeria, which is Yoruba culture, right? But hidden in the Catholic Church. So they could do what they had to do. Everybody's like, oh, I said, what are you talking about? It's us, it's ours. Do you understand? Our original culture is older than the Greeks, is older than the Romans, is older than the Egyptians. So why have we not storified it? Why have we not brought it out? And part of that is what we hope to do, because the biggest things we have are the original things, and they're here.
So how do we begin to storify?
Well, we're working with those.
Yeah.
We're working with.
Because I'd like to watch a film, for example, or
It's coming.
even a documentary.
It's coming.
You know, I so love history, even though I wasn't a history student. You know, reading back what happened 200-300 years ago and all of
I
that.
think part of it is the same way you watch Game of Thrones.
Yes.
If you watch the Argungu Festival properly and it's shot properly, I have it. We're putting together the stuff to go on to multi-choice. You'll be saying, oh my God, Game of Thrones could have happened in Nigeria. The point is we have to unlock the imagination. And the real thing, I think, is that we're working already with some of the top producers and some of the top production companies to look at how we can help enable that. You see, Netflix and all these guys, they're commercially driven, right? But a country must have intentional storytelling. You must. Because your own narrative is your narrative. If black people are complaining about how they're seen, it is because they have not told their story. You have allowed the European narrative to frame us for 500 years. Is it not time that we actually framed our own narratives? And our own narratives will tell you that we were not savages, we're not evil, we're not the dark continent, but these are things that were imported on us, right? And they have assumed it. Some Nigerians will tell you, oh, we never did anything. And I'm like, are you kidding me? The home of innovation is Nigeria and it's Africa. The first place where man controlled metal, ore, is here. It's Iboku, is the Benin bronzes, it's knock culture. So we have to understand that that is technology, that is innovation, and it's been here for centuries. If you go to Eredo just outside Lagos, the moats there, built, the walls there are from the 12th century. More earth was moved there than the pyramids at Giza. But if we were in a different country, 10 million a year would be going there in tourism. But we're walking past our monuments as if they're not important because we have not actually told the story. So the Michael Palin documentary that was made, that a few people are reacting to, we have a series coming called Discover Nigeria. We're going to go to hidden parts of Nigeria and show you Nigeria. When did you ever see Nigeria from a Nigerian show? You haven't seen it because we have been acting as if we're visitors in our own country. We don't go in and tell the story and bring it out and extract it and then put it into multiple formats, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a comic, whether it's a film, whether it's a documentary, whether it's a music video. It's endless what is in Nigeria. And I think when you're talking about how can it happen, everybody can do it. From dance, from theater, from animation, from film, from music. Those are all different forms of storytelling. Okay, storytelling is not sitting under the tree just reading a book.
Tales by Moonlight.
That's a good one too.
Yes, that was a good one.
I mean, R.I.P. to Jimmy Sri
Yes,
Lanka.
exactly.
Loved him.
Yes,
Loved him.
And I think they've modified it or so because there was a time I still saw it on. Because, for
definitely.
example, I would love children. I would love my son to watch Nigerian-made cartoons, though I know that there are a few of them now.
There are a few coming.
You know, that cartoons that really exemplify who we are and
And
not
and
the
Nancy
usual...
the Spider, all these things that
Exactly.
could be done. You know, the Lucky Leopard. You know, I remember my daughter. There's a BBC series called, I think, Tinga Tinga, which is literally African fables and folklore and animation. She must have watched 300 episodes, and I was saying to myself, why did they take the BBC to do this? But then this is the craze. There's many African stories that we have not even touched, that the BBC has touched, the Americans have touched. And, you know, Beyonce has been projecting Yemoja for 10 years. She's been on a Yoruba goddess for at least 10 years. We're sitting here. I said, why are you sitting here? When do you think becomes a $1 trillion, $1 billion movie expertise? We will dress up and want to be on red carpet. I said, why didn't they invite us? No, let's do it ourselves.
Or The Woman King.
The Woman King is a great story. It's
Yes.
the Oyo Empire.
Oh,
When
yeah.
I watched it and I saw the King of Oyo, I was like, nah, it looks good. You know, I think it's Jimmy, the
Yeah,
pastor now.
Jimmy the
It looks
pastor,
good,
yeah.
but what stopped us making that film? Do you understand? Nothing stops us doing anything. I think we've been
How about
stopping
funding?
ourselves.
How about funding?
For the films, for the
yes,
movies?
Yeah, or even for what you're doing right now, for the ministry itself, because
Well,
I
I-
also
well,
know
I
there are
think-
funding gaps. What kind of financing models are you guys looking
I mean, in
at?
terms of financing models, you first of all got to look at government, right? Because we are government. So I think the most important thing is the first step is that government has created the ministry. The
But the ministry has been on for a while.
No.
And
It's only
attention hasn't been
it's only
there.
been 1 year. It's only been 1 year.
Oh,
It was always
okay.
part. It was always
It's also
hidden.
part of-
It was always hidden. This is the first time that I think we have something that is focal driven, and what we believe and what we know is that the president has promised the minister that there'll be a significant intervention fund. All of the agencies in the ministry require intervention funding to be able to fulfill the mandate. I have an incredible roadmap. We all have very strong roadmaps with key plans that will have a big impact. But if you don't have the intervention fund
money.
to sort yourself out, it's going to be almost impossible to deliver. So that's one side. The other side, of course, is people like me, we're coming from the private sector, so we're collaborating, reaching out to private sector partners, the multilaterals, whether it's on capacity building, whether it's on programming, whether it's media partnerships, whether it's developers to develop existing assets that are lying fallow. We are open to everything. Anybody that has any value to bring to the cultural and creative industries, please reach out to NCAC. We are open for business. But at the same, people keep calling us thinking we have contracts to give. We have no contracts to give. We have no money to share. But we have value to create together. And we know that if you create value, I have a long history of doing this, if you create value, you will see money. Do you understand? Money is a product of value creation. It's not just, it doesn't just happen. And this industry has the potential. I mean, you were talking about IP earlier, talking about finance. Well, how do you value these things? Take this as a thumbsuck. We have 220 million Nigerians, right? I believe that the minimum cultural output of every individual Nigerian, minimally, is $1,000, if you value it. Just what they wear every day, how they dress, how they go to the market, $1,000. $1,000 and 220 million, how much is that? It's $220 billion. That's a good base to start from. If you look at that as $220 billion, and then think that we have 1 billion untold stories. We haven't told any stories. Nollywood has done very well, but it's told a fraction of the stories. We haven't engaged. How many biopics have been made of Nigerians? literally. Fumilayo.
Yeah,
Bolande has just made
yeah.
Fumilayo. That's literally the first one. We've had at least 20,000 Nigerians that have been incredible in all kinds of fields: sports, culture, politics, business, entertainment. Where are the stories? Because for a long time, Nigerians have behaved as if entertainment is a byproduct. But you spend all your life and day working to do what? To spend your money on entertainment.
Lifestyle.
On Netflix, on going to the red carpet. So entertainment is significant business. California has been in the top 4 economies in the world for the last, 20 years? And why? Because innovation is at home there with Silicon Valley, and Hollywood is the entertainment. Those 2 industries, and that's the connection here. So I believe strongly, I have a background in the tech space as well, that digital and creative together are the future of this country.
Now let's talk about the arts and the crafts part. How much do you think Nigeria's arts is worth? And that will also take me to the arts village here in Abuja. I used to go there before it was closed down, but I know it's open now. Buy a few things, you know, you see incredible crafts going on there. So what exactly do you want to do concerning that? Then another thing is, you talked about the center earlier on. I would like to perhaps after work on Friday night, go somewhere, enjoy myself, you know, watch stage plays. The last time I watched the stage play here in Abuja was the one done, I can't remember her name again, Kate Henshaw and co. They came here.
Okay.
Yes, and
the Vagina Monologues?
Exactly, the V monologues, yes.
I said the word.
No, but it's okay, you can. You know, I would love to, for example, go to watch stage plays every Friday or even Saturday or whenever, or have, even if I don't go to a club, because people will be like, I love dancing, by the way, and I go.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, exactly. Don't catch me dancing.
We'll get you on stage.
Yeah, you know. So things like that for people, because it's also an avenue to generate money.
Oh, definitely.
I'll be paying, people are working, it's people are employed and all of that. So I don't know how you're thinking about that, because that place too is also in a strategic place, is in a central
Well, what I'll tell you is
area.
this. I mean, what I'll tell you is this, is that we are activating.
I'm not also talking of Abuja alone. You
No
can
problem.
actually cascade it across the
No,
country.
we're activating, and we've renamed the place.
Oh, okay.
Well, not renamed it. You know, we have an amphitheater, right? It sits 500 people. And we did a show.
In that place?
Yes.
Really?
We did a show there. We did the show there on World Theatre Day about 6 weeks ago. And it was incredible. The performing troupe department of my agency performed. I was amazed. I was like, wow, so we have this kind of talent within the council. But what that led to is that we've now ideated a whole concept. We have an operator coming on board. And what's going to happen is the amphitheater is named Center Stage. And on Center Stage, we're going to have permanent programming. So you don't have to wait until Friday. You can come on Monday nights, you can come on Tuesday nights, you can come on Wednesday afternoon. But we have a bunch of things we want to do, apart from the programming, which is theater, dance, live entertainment, comedy, music, unsigned hype, ladies' nights, where ladies only will perform, spoken word, all of these things will come in. And we're looking for, and we're inviting theater owners, producers, Society of Nigerian Artists, Abuja, anybody who's in the space, you're looking for a place, we're open for you. So that's one side of it. But we also want to work with the community. So we're going to have a daily art club for kids, right? So we'll talk to all the schools in Abuja. And this is the first time I'm saying it publicly. So from 3 to 6 p.m., you can come and bring the kids, pay a minimum fee, and have art classes. So have an art club every day of the year.
Exactly. I was looking forward to that too,
No,
to take,
we're
you know,
putting that
children
there.
to...
Yeah. It's critical. Put that there. We'll put a book club there on Saturdays.
Okay.
You can come and play basketball. We're going to put a basketball court in there. Put five-a-side football. We want it to be a place. Or you can eat on Sundays. We're going to do that. We're going to bring in food and beverage, and we're opening up the license so you can be there till midnight, 1 a.m., whatever time you want to be. Because all the big artists that are in Abuja, Odumodu Black, all these guys, they need a home venue. We're going to be their home. And we're going to connect theater, music, live entertainment, comedy, and it's all going to happen on Center Stage.
What is it that they said that Abuja people are boring people?
They're not boring.
We are not like your Lagos people.
They're not boring. I don't think so. I don't think Abuja people are boring. I think they just need opportunities to express themselves. And we're going to provide the opportunity.
So the earlier question about arts, in terms of the worth
The value.
of, yes, the value. What do you think? You talked about the Bini bronze
Yes.
and all of that. We have a lot of that. I told you just before the show, when you come to my home, when you enter, we have close to 40 artworks in my house.
You said.
You know, it's like, I and my husband, we're not art collectors, but we...
But you are.
Okay,
you have 40
actually,
pieces, you
yeah,
are.
exactly. You know, and it's
I'm
what...
happy to tell you that you do. So that
you know, but I understand the essence of this, and we even engage the artist and all of that. You know, if we see something that interests us, like, okay, can't we just put that into an artwork and all of that? So you can imagine how much that could bring. Do you think that our arts can be so commercialized? And that also brings me to art galleries. I know there are a few now in Abuja. That also brings me to even the artists themselves and the coordination between your agency and like the museum. What do we need to do to be able to propel
Well, let, let, me-
arts
let, let,
galleries
let me
and
say it
co?
like this, and I can ask him to come. I can invite him. I'll reach out to him and see whether he can come and answer the questions direct.
Okay.
But there's a gentleman called Ahmed Shodangi,
Okay.
who is the DG of the National Gallery of Art.
Okay.
He's very, very strong. He's put together a significant roadmap, and I believe that the visual artists of Nigeria are going to be very excited when they see what he comes with. But in the meantime, to answer your question, people don't know necessarily, but I'm custodian of a huge family art collection. I grew up with art, so from antiquities to contemporary. Our collection is primarily antiquities. So in Nigeria, in terms of antiquities, I believe we have some laws to change because there's a law that says you can't take out any art made after 1900. I believe that's a mistake because what that has done is only those who smuggle art out make money. Those of us who have the art as well, I have been in bronzes, Ife, Nok, terracotta, Igbo, Uku. You have all these things, but you cannot monetize it because you have punished yourself, if that makes any sense. So I don't think that was, I understand why the law was done, and I think that law needs review. And that's with the National Museums and Commissions, where Billy Holloway is really doing incredible things already. I mean, there's a huge 30-foot virtual reality model of Queen Idia in Charles de Gaulle Airport last month, which I don't know if you've seen it, but it's an incredible thing. And I said to him, man, look at this thing. I mean, he did it.
In France.
Incredible. I mean, just even seeing it, anybody that walk past it, you stop and take a picture, you do a video, because it's just that powerful. And it just talks about what you can do with the art. The Museums Commission has over 58 museums in Nigeria. And of course, again, they need funding to bring them alive. But also, you reimagine what a museum means. A museum can be a nightclub. A museum can hold parties. A museum is not just supposed to be a place where people go and you don't see anybody. It needs to be part of society and part living. Now, in terms of the value, the antiquities are priceless. That's the first thing. They're priceless, they're worth billions of dollars. But we must create the narrative that adds the value for us ourselves. So it's not just European collectors and international people that are making money from our art. That's one side. The artifacts. We have incredibly skilled artisans all over Nigeria making incredible artifacts. One of the things that NCAC is trying to do is to put together a validation process. Because unfortunately for a lot of people, if you buy an artifact and you're a foreigner, you get to the airport, they charge you money because they say this thing about, but it's not an antiquity, so they should not be charging you any money. So you're trying to work out whether we can work out something with a QR code, work with a tech company that you can buy your thing, put a QR code, and when you get to the airport, they'll see it, scan it, and say it's authentic and let you go. So that we can find a way to digitize, provide e-commerce platforms as well for them to sell the arts and crafts. The arts and crafts village at the arts village has had challenges because of resources. Power resources in terms of electricity, security issues, but all those issues are being resolved. And I hope by July, we will invite people to a big opening weekend party at Center Stage. So we are coming. The value of art, for a lot of people, you know, times are hard, right? But the artist is always relevant in society because the artist documents society. And the artist, depending on how the artist is and his perception, he will deliver work in that direction. So I'm somebody that understands that in any society, the highest people are always the intellectuals, right? And the intellectuals are typically the artists. They don't necessarily make money because that's just life, right? Not everybody makes money, but they can make a living. They'll be fine. It's not about becoming a billionaire. Not everybody's Van Gogh, or not everybody's going to be Benenwong, for example. But the talent in Nigeria, the ability to create, and then those of them that are able to use the digital tools to bring it into the digital world. There's a young gentleman called Anthony Ezekwo. He's going to be embarrassed when I say his name. I met him on Twitter, literally, 2 years ago, during the pandemic. He asked me a question. And you know, somebody asks you a question that's so intelligent, you have to check who's this person. So he got into my inbox, asked me this question, and he said, look, I'm an artist, and I see, he also does covers for the music guys. He said, I see the music guys, it looks like they're making money. What can we do in our ecosystem to build money? And I'm like, okay, who are you? So I went to check him, and it turned out I'd been following him.
You
right?
didn't know?
Well, he said I didn't know,
Yeah.
but I was following him, and it was because I'd liked one of his paintings. So he's one of the top digital NFT artists in the world, out of Africa, maybe top 2, definitely top 2, 3, with a chap called Osinachi out of Nigeria. I didn't know the boy. I didn't even know whether he was male or female until he answered me. I said, look, so where are you producing your art? I said, he's Nikoi. I said, really? Okay, let me come over. I went over there. I'm looking around and thinking, how old are you? 22. So you're living here by yourself? So how's that possible? He just dropped out of Covenant University. I said, really? I bet your dad was happy. I said, nah, he's not happy, but I wasn't feeling the course, chemical engineering. I said, okay. By the time we finished talking, and I'm getting to his flat, beautiful 2-bedroom flat, about 30 pieces of work, his works in there. And he's explained to me what he does, plus he writes, and he's an author. And I'm like, you're 21, 22. Now I think he's 23. So yeah. His NFTs had generated $300,000 by then. So he was paying his own bills, living his own life. And that is what is possible. It's like the young boys who are working in tech remotely worldwide, and they're sitting in Abuja, in Lekki, in Onitsha, in Kano. They have the skills. So it's about giving people the platforms and the skills to express themselves, and then you can move. The other thing that can really help as well from the government perspective is for government to decide that any public building being built by any agency or ministry must have a line item for art. So that building must have art on it, in it, around it, and that will mobilize and energize artists as well. So there are many different techniques, and I think you'll see these things coming from the different agencies. But we have an overview, so we also are collaborating with everybody because we have an overview for art, we have an overview for this, and that's why we're trying to build capacity internally to better connect to these ecosystems.
Now, as we come, because we have about 2 minutes to the end, how about public awareness to all of this? Because you just said that entertainment, arts, culture, everything concerning that is treated as a byproduct. Apart from, like now we've seen the rise of Nollywood, Afrobeats, even our fashion,
our food is coming.
Content, creators economy.
The food, don't forget the food.
Yes, the food, exactly. You know.
And it's under us.
Yeah, you know, so a whole lot of that coming in, and people are beginning to say, oh, okay, when you meet someone now, what do? I say, I'm a content creator.
And you could be making much more money than anybody else.
And they're making money. So what would you do? What would your council do in terms of public enlightenment, awareness about your mandate and the roadmap, and some of the initiatives of even the ministry itself?
Well, I think it's like this. It's a step-by-step process. We're coming from where we were to where we're going to be. So 3 months ago, maybe nobody even knew this council existed. In the next 3 months, with some of our partnership, I think the whole of Nigeria will know. The areas that we are connected to are the most vibrant areas of this economy. I'll be bold to say that. I think the storytelling, the content creators, the creator economy, the creative economy, culture, fashion, food, music, we are the feel good. We bring the good vibes, and we also bring the money and the jobs. So that is our focus. And the thing now is to make sure that these agencies, which are supposed to represent these sectors, are better connected to these sectors, are better in position to offer service. Because if you're working in these sectors, you may not even have heard of us, right? That's totally valid. But I've been here 60 days. You will definitely hear of us. This is the first interview. Do you understand? So in many respects, this is the first time we're coming out saying, NCAC is here, we're available. We cover the 49 sectors of the cultural and creative industries. We have the mandates to support, and we're here to partner and collaborate.
Okay, and I wish you well.
Thank you. We need all the good wishes.
Yes, one of these days I'd love to speak with the minister herself, at least to take a look at perhaps the tourism, because when I follow a few creators to see what's around our tourism, and sometimes when I see what's here in the country, I'm like, is this place in Nigeria?
I was talking to Tayo, I know, this morning. I said, Tayo, because this Discover Nigeria program we're doing, I said, Tayo, can you come and be on the show? And Tayo's like, man, I'm in London, man, if it's worth my while. Because what it is I think a lot of Nigerians don't see what's around them, right? Because they're so focused on the daily grind. So we need to discover. Yes, thank you.
We need to discover
Nigeria, that's it.
It's a whole lot, you know, because it's not just about feel good, it's about money. I remember many years ago when Michael Jackson died, I was watching a documentary. It showed me that Michael Jackson used to rehearse 18 hours a day to be Michael Jackson, and he's a legend.
P-Square used to rehearse 10 hours a day.
You know, and you just take us and say...
Nobody gets to the top by accident.
By accident.
There's no overnight success.
Nothing like that.
It's only the day you found out.
Exactly.
And you whisked it at least 5 years before the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Right? So it's the grind. And I think, you know, it's just like a duck on water. You look good on top, but under the water, you're grinding.
You're grinding. Thank you very much for coming.
Appreciate you. Thank you for having us.
This is the first, is not the last, definitely.
Amen.
All right, I'll be speaking with Mr. Obi Asika, the Director General of National Council for Arts and Culture. Like I said, we're wishing you all well. I would love to see the sector create more jobs than it's doing right now. And of course, bring in more money even in foreign exchange. Thank you for watching. In case this is your first time watching us, thank you. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, drop your comments as well as like, and most of all, share our content.